Thank you very much for letting me do this. Welcome, everybody. This talk is actually part of Wellness Week, and it is in support of Mental Health Awareness Week. I decided to do it on food this time because I actually do run the Time to Talk lunches here now, and we didn't have a talk this week on food, so I thought that's something that really, people are really into food. With stress, health and well-being, you'll find out about that today. This also includes modern farming practices and do they impact on our health, and that's actually a very, very big topic at the moment. And then also health and spiritual benefits of fasting. It's actually our month of Ramadan at the moment, and quite a lot of us are fasting, but also the 5-2 diet is actually quite rife out there. And that is actually a diet which non-Muslims are really, really getting into. So we'll have a look at that. Are there any benefits? I am the Muslim chaplain here. I'm also the ARU Mental Health Champion. I do have a degree and a master's, actually. So the degree I've got is in biotechnology, which really is good, really, because all the farming practices and things that I'm going to be talking about is all biotechnology. My master's is actually in special needs and mental health, so that is quite apparent today as well. Apart from that, I'm a qualified teacher as well, so I've got quite a lot of hats. I am also Secretary of Essex Mind and Spirit, which is an voluntary organisation which deals with mental health and how faith may help with mental health. So I've got lots and lots of hats within this field. So basically, by the end of today, we will find out what kinds of foods are good for us and which kinds of food we can eat which will actually fight disease, but also what kinds of food will feed that disease, which is not good for us. So by the end, we will be able to come to a conclusion. And I've already given you a clue here because you've all had fresh fruit and veg, and there was nothing else there for you to eat. So the first thing is that we need to stop eating crap, okay? And crap stands for C, carbonated drinks. We've got R, refined sugars, A, artificial foods, and P, processed foods. Basically, all that stuff is very cheap to buy. We buy now, but then we pay later with our health. And we need to try and avoid all the junk kind of food. The cheaper the food is, the more cheaper it's grown, the more additives would have been added in, the more E numbers, the more preservatives, that kind of stuff. And all of those things are actually very unnatural for our natural body metabolism, some of the things which are added into all of these things. And obviously when we were made, we are used to natural things. Natural things like fresh fruit and vegetables are things which are compatible with our body metabolism. And all these other things, there's a rise in allergies out there, there's a rise in intolerance, irritable bowel syndrome. I could go on forever. I do have a husband who is a doctor, and we have got a brilliant GP in the audience as well, who knows about all of these things. There's a rise in cancer, there's a rise in all sorts of diseases, and it is actually because of all the food that we are eating. And also, we need to avoid sugar, especially in cakes and things like that. A bad diet increases free radicals in the body, which are responsible for aging and organ damage. And did you know that the word desserts, spelt backward, is actually stressed? So that actually makes us stressed. So if you remember desserts and the word stressed, then you'll know we need to cut down on it. I'm not telling you to give it up completely, because some of your faces are, oh no, but we do need to cut down. And the reason is that a lot of these things have got so many artificial things in there, and it makes the detoxification process much, much more slower. So if you eat natural products, your metabolism breaks down things very nicely. They are simple things in simple, naturally grown products. Whereas if you get junk food, There are so many complex chemicals and substances in there which take far, far more longer to break down. And a lot of those toxins and things, they actually remain in our body. We don't even get rid of half of those. So this is all the detoxification process. And at the top, as you can see, is a big McDonald's lunch. And it takes a lot more longer to break down. And did you know that all of these things can lead to cancer? So in order to starve cancer, we need to cut down on sugar, on dairy, artificial chemicals, no hydrogenated oils, genetically modified food, and also meat as well. So we will come to that later on when we look at some of the modern farming practices. The truth about fruit sugar, it's handled differently by the body than processed sugar. It is simple sugar, intrinsic, which the body and brain run on, optimal form of energy for us, brings alkalinity and vitality to our cells, reverses acidosis and strengthens cells. So all sugars are not the same. So the sugars that you get within fruit is very, very good, simple sugars. And fruit sugar does not need to be limited. Obviously, there's a limit as well with that. You can't obviously have a great big, huge a bowl of fruit for dinner. Obviously, it does have to be limited. But to a certain extent, in terms of relating it to gâteaux and desserts and things like that. And on the whole, you're less likely to get diabetes with fresh fruit in comparison to the sugars, the artificial sugars and things that you get in all the other things. So fruit is very good for us. It's not just the sugar in the fruit that's good for us. There are other properties within fruit which are actually anti-cancer. And the latest research has showed us some really good superfruits, like dragon fruit is one of the fruits that's been identified, which actually kills cancer cells. Did you know that peaches and plums also kill cancer cells? In laboratory studies, peach and plum extracts selectively target and kill aggressive breast cancer cells. So there's grapes there, mangosteen, pomegranate is a very good one, guava, blueberries. Soursop is another fruit which has been very, very recently investigated. There's acai berries, key limes, and noni. Some of those fruits are actually quite unusual, but very, very good for you. As well as fruits, did you know that fresh vegetables, especially these ones, they can also prevent breast cancer? So broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, spinach, collards, tomatoes are very good, kale, cabbage, and carrots. I have actually got an aunt, and she had bowel cancer, and her doctor told her to eat a lot more tomatoes. So obviously with the chemotherapy and everything else, she changed her diet. And whenever I saw her, she was always got tomatoes on a plate. And she never used to eat tomatoes. And I asked her, and she said, oh, the doctor told me to start eating tomatoes. And it's actually helped her because her cancer is now sort of under bay at the moment. There are lots and lots of other anti-cancer food apart from vegetables, and these are some of them. So we've got ginger, soursop we've mentioned already, oregano, frankincense is a very unusual one, sea moss, CBD oil, sea buckthorn, and black seed oil. So these are very unusual. Some of these are herbs, and they also fight cancer. And the latest trend, which a lot of you have heard of, is smoothies. How many of you have smoothies? Smoothies are very, very good for you, and a lot of them are combining fruit and vegetables together, and all of those actually help to de-stress you. So did you know stress, for example, banana is very good. It actually releases extra serotonin levels when you eat bananas. It's called a happy fruit, and it's actually the shape of a smiley face as well. So that is supposed to be very good for stress levels. Memory loss, pomegranate, beets and grapes. Depression, carrots, apple, spinach, and beetroot is very good. I'm dealing with all the stress type things here. Headache, apple, cucumber, kale, ginger, celery. Hangover, apple, carrot, beetroot, and lemon. And nervousness, carrot, celery, and pomegranate. So smoothies where you're combining the properties of vegetables and fruit are very, very good for stress levels, stress and anxiety. As well as that, there are so many natural painkillers out there. Garlic helps with earache. Ginger helps with muscle pain. Pineapple helps with stomach bloating and gas. Cherries help with joint pain and headaches. Water on the whole hydrates your whole body, hydrates your brain, helps with memory as well. We've got horseradish for sinus pain, cloves for toothache and gum inflammation, apple cider vinegar for heartburn, blueberries, bladder, urinary tract infections, peppermint for sore muscles. My husband told me something yesterday when I showed him this PowerPoint because I thought I'd better check it with the doctor first. He said the latest trend is peppermint cream for aches and bones, is that correct? And chili cream. He was mentioning about chili cream is being used as well for pain, which I think is really, really interesting. And turmeric is another very big one. In fact, turmeric tea is out there. If you go to the herbal tea section in the supermarkets, you will get turmeric tea, because turmeric is supposed to be really good for pain as well. So a lot of these are very, very good for you. In addition to that, there are natural painkillers as well. So straight out of your kitchen. Honey is really, really good for you. Did you know there are 99 remedies of honey? And I'm going to go through those in a minute when we come to honey. They are very good for sores in the mouth. Black coffee is good for migraines. Table salt for pain in the feet. And grapes for back pain. All of these are natural painkiller remedies straight out of your kitchen. And then we've got other things which can detox your organs. For fluoride, there's tamarind extract or curcumin extract. For lungs, there's mullein extract. For liver, milk thistle extract. For kidneys, dandelion extract. For bladder, there's demonose, cranberry, and oregano extract. And for colon, there is ginger, aloe, cascara, sagrada, and senna extract with chia seeds. So there is just so much out there. Here are 12 foods that help you fight fatigue. So here are all the foods. Again, chia seeds comes up again. Eggs are good for you. Avocado. Curry. Who likes the Indian curries? Curry mainly, there's turmeric in curries and there's chili in curries. And that's what helps with that kind of stuff. Bananas already mentioned already. They make you happy. We've got dark chocolate in there as well. I know some of you are worrying about your chocolate, but chocolate's there as well. Coffee as well, salmon as well, lots of things there. So did you know that apart from all of those things that fruit and vegetables do, there's also, did you know that some foods, they resemble the organs in your body that they are good for? And I find that absolutely fascinating. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a little video on, and what you will see is the fruit or the vegetable, what it looks like in your body, and why then it helps you for those organs. Don't you find that absolutely fascinating? I just find that absolutely amazing. Okay, and did you know that magnesium deficiency is actually linked with depression? So magnesium deficiency is a possible cause of depression and related mental health problems, including IQ loss, and addiction is enormously important to public health. So magnesium can be found in these 6 types of food. So we've got buckwheat there, we've got pumpkin seeds, cashews, dark chocolate, spinach, and black beans. And that's actually documented in quite a few journals. We've got the US National Library of Medicine, National Institutes of Health, and a study was done, and there was rapid recovery from major depression using magnesium treatment. So any magnesium-rich foods, dates is actually another one. Dates has quite a lot of magnesium in there as well. They're supposed to be really good for you. So let's have a look at the etiquettes of eating now. I mean, we've got our fruit and veg, but on the whole, there are certain etiquettes of food as well that we need to follow, how to eat the food, which helps with our stress levels as well. And we do need to have a balanced diet, and we need to basically control our carbohydrate intake. So here are some non-starchy vegetables, such as spinach, carrots, lettuce, greens, cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, green beans, tomatoes, onions, cucumbers, beetroots, and peppers. And then we've got a quarter, so half of your plate should be those. A quarter can be starchy vegetables, so that can include wheat and bread, potatoes. Sweet potatoes are very good for you. We've got bread, brown rice, couscous, pinto beans, green peas, that kind of stuff. And then protein, again, we've got the meats there, the fish and the meat, the nuts, the lentils, the cheese, the yogurt. Again, when it comes to meat, I will talk to you a little bit about that later. That scare is to come later, the meat part. So we do need to have a balanced diet, not just, fill up our plate just with fruit and vegetables. Everything, which is quite common knowledge really, needs to be balanced. If you have too much fat in your body, skip high-fat foods and eat only fats from eggs and lean meat. And then unlimited fiber from green vegetables, but limit net carbs to less than about 50 grams daily. So that's just on the whole. What about drinks? Any kinds of drinks that we need to try and avoid, apart from the carbonated soda drinks I mentioned earlier on? Any ideas? 2 types of drinks we need to try and avoid. Sorry? Caffeine, good. Excellent. Well done. Caffeine, we need to try and cut down on, because it can actually make you feel agitated and anxious. And that's actually a well-known fact. We need to try and drink more water. Water is very good for us. This is another thing, actually, that the NHS recognized about 10 years ago, because when I was a child, nobody carried water bottles around with them, did they? And now it's rife, isn't it? Water bottles are everywhere, and everybody's drinking throughout the day, not just with their meals. So drink water, because if you sip it throughout the day, it keeps you hydrated. A dehydrated brain does not function at its optimum and can add stress to your kidneys. Also, memory loss. A lot of lectures, actually, there's guidance that if they drink water before they give a lecture, it hydrates their brain and they'll remember what to say and things like that. So water is very, very good for us. But what kinds of tea can we have? Green tea is very, very good for us. And this is, again, another trend. Herbal teas are really rife out there, aren't they? So many people into herbal teas nowadays. There are 11 reasons why we should try and drink green tea. First of all, it is an excellent antioxidant. It helps preserve and build bone. It boosts our immunity against illnesses. Did you know it rehydrates better than water? It also prevents tooth decay, cures bad breath. It prolongs your life. It burns fat. I'm sure us ladies all like that one. It burns fat, enables you to exercise for longer. It lowers stress, brain power. It reduces high blood pressure, and it helps to protect your lungs as well. It also helps to protect your liver from alcohol. So there are so many benefits of having green tea. And also lemon water. I've actually seen water bottles where people put a little bit of lemon at the top and they drink that. And that's because it's been highlighted that lemon water is really good for us. It's an excellent source of potassium, boosts immunity, aids digestion, enhances skin health, fights infections, regulates blood pressure, relieves joint pain, and detoxes your liver as well. What other kinds of drinks are bad for us? Nobody's dared say the main one. Alcohol. Good. I'm glad somebody said that. Okay, so if we look at alcohol, it is very, very bad for our stress levels. So this is a guide to the sequential damage that alcohol inflicts on neural tissue. First, the alcohol affects the forebrain and assaults motor, coordination, and decision-making. So you're unable then, this is obviously in large amounts. So this is when you get to that stage where you can't make decisions. Then alcohol knocks out the midbrain and you lose control over emotions and increased chances of a blackout. Finally, alcohol batters the brainstem as it affects heart rate, your body temperature, your appetite, and your consciousness. Now, all of those things are affected also when you are stressed. Did you know that when you are in the mode of the sympathetic mode of your ANS system, your autonomic nervous system, all of these things are affected then as well when you're stressed. Your heart rate, your body temperature, your appetite. And alcohol has exactly the same effect as when you are stressed. Alcohol inhibits the inhibitory center in the brain, preventing the person from doing things that he considers wrong. This is why when a person consumes alcohol, he's found to be indulging in behavior that is completely uncharacteristic of him. It's like later on when someone, a horror story after a party, and someone tells you, you did this yesterday, and you think, but that's not like me. I wouldn't have done that. With the police, I'm actually sit on the police panels for race, hate, crime, and other panels, and they always say that crime increases when somebody is drunk. That's common knowledge again. Adultery, rape, all sorts of things happen because of too much alcohol, really. So we need to try and avoid too much alcohol. And also, it has an effect on our body, not just on our brain. There are 3 types of liver conditions: fatty liver, hepatitis, and cirrhosis, which happens when you drink too much alcohol. Alcohol contributes to 100,000 deaths annually, affects virtually every organ in the body since it is absorbed directly into the bloodstream. Alcohol can lead to unsafe behavior and even death, and has many, many side effects. Drinking even at moderate levels can put you at risk of serious health and social problems. And did you know that alcohol interacts negatively with more than 150 medications? That's including antibiotics. If anybody's on antibiotics, I know so many people who don't drink alcohol while they're on antibiotics because it affects the effect of the antibiotic. Okay, other eating habits. What about breakfast? Breakfast, did you know, is the most important meal of the day. It is vital to have breakfast to provide your brain and body with fuel for the day. So vitamin C and things like that. Did you know that missing out breakfast can cause stress on your body, and you start off in the stress mode of the sympathetic mode of your ANS system, autonomic nervous system. And that stress can then accelerate as you go throughout the day. And say you wait till lunchtime and other stress things happen at work, and then by the end you're like falling off the ladder. So it's very important to have breakfast to rehydrate your brain and things like that. Also, should we overeat? No. Stomach too tight, keep your dinner light. Okay, so eating late in the evening actually disrupts your sleep as your body is trying to digest the food. It's churning up the food while you're trying to sleep, and then you can't sleep. And that's where you get your indigestion. And journals have proven that you should keep a third of your stomach empty to allow room for the digestive juices to churn the food. So you need to keep 1/3 empty so that all the digestive juices can then churn your food properly. Otherwise, if you fill up your food up to here, where's the juices going to go, and how are they going to churn the food? And that's why you're burping and you've got acid up here and all the rest. I don't know if anybody's come across that, but I definitely have. Okay, now what about dieting? There are some people, they may be big genetically, okay? There are two types of being obese, and one is obviously because of the environment, but obviously genetically you can be big as well, you know? So it's impossible to lose weight just by eating salads. Look at the buffalo. They eat only grass, but they're big, aren't they? So we need to really be careful, and dieting needs to be done really in a proper manner, really. And I do know people, I actually know somebody who went on a crash diet, didn't go to the doctor, didn't get any kind of guidance, and she actually suffered from mental health problems at the end because she depleted some of the chemicals in her brain, and then she ended up mentally depressed. And there was no depression in her life before, there was no genetic traits there, nothing. So we do need to be careful. Don't miss meals. Eat regularly. Eating regularly provides the body with a constant supply of fuel. If we deny it that fuel, it will start to mess with our metabolic rate, slowing it down, and can cause weight gain and tiredness, actually the opposite. And diet and neurotransmission. The building blocks of normal neurotransmitter function starts prenatally. Continued poor diet negatively affects one's ability to cope with life stresses. Life stresses lead to increased stress hormones, which lead to higher risk of mental and physical health problems. So dieting, like I said, without consulting a doctor can be bad for you. But now let's have a look at fasting. Fasting is actually being researched recently. There was a doctor called Dr. Jack Goldstein, and he scientifically proved that fasting can be good for the human body. Let's find out how. So it gives vital organs a complete rest. We're mainly looking at the digestive system here. We sleep to have a rest, but our bodily organs are constantly on the go, and sometimes our bodily organs need a rest. And by fasting, our digestive system has a complete rest, and less blood is then sent to the digestive system. And what fasting does, it permits the conservation and rerouting of energy. So we don't need energy in our stomach, and that stomach then, that energy that's going to our stomach can then go into other parts of our body and can target other areas. And that will help us to clear and strengthen our mind as well. It increases the powers of digestion and assimilation, absorption and utilization of food into the system. So if you think of the fact that your digestive system is having a lovely rest, and then all of a sudden you have food, it's going to have extra power. It's a little bit like when you go to sleep and you wake up and you're more energized. So there'll be more power of digestion than in your stomach, because all of a sudden you get a big blood rush to your stomach when you eat, and it actually increases the power of digestion, if that makes sense. It lets the body break down and absorb swellings, deposits, diseased tissues, and abnormal growths. White blood cells are also activated, and that's because of the decrease in blood supply going to certain parts of your body. The white blood cells increase, and basically it gives a bit of a chance of the body to catch up and repair damaged cells. It gives time for other parts to heal as well. So all of that is actually very, very good for us. I actually do know somebody who has got eczema, and when they fast for a whole month in Ramadan, their eczema goes. because it gives the body a chance to catch up and heal some of the things that can't be healed while all their body's all on the go. It allows the body to adjust and normalize its biochemistry and also its secretions and hormones. So it's very, very good for your brain as well. It promotes elimination of metabolic waste, toxins, and bacteria. Fasting gives the body the environment to heal itself, and it detoxifies you as well. It restores a youthful condition to the cells. Did you hear that, ladies? It restores a youthful condition to the cells and tissues. So regeneration of cells is much, much better as well. Also, if we look at each of our bodily organs, it helps with those as well. Let's start off with the brain. It lowers triglycerides and promotes growth hormone, preventing aging. For the heart, when fasting, less blood is sent to the digestive system, reducing constant blood exposure to food and glucose, therefore improving hormonal levels and overall cardiac health. For the lungs, fasting helps to further remove the environmental toxins inhaled daily. For the stomach, it uses the time to cleanse itself, and it plays an antibiotic role by eliminating harmful bacteria. Moving on to the intestines, they also get a chance to be cleansed, eliminating fecal matter for better digestion. The liver, it increases body levels of an energy source called glycogen and burns off excess fat to produce glycerol, another energy source. And the kidneys, they intensify dialysis like never otherwise, therefore detoxifying the whole body. And with the pancreas, stabilizes insulin levels and may prevent or reverse diabetes type 2, but not diabetes 1. I wouldn't really recommend someone who's got diabetes type 1 to fast, more for diabetes type 2. And fasting helps in the conditioning of the heart, body, mind, and soul. It improves the overall dimension of a human body. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a video on which is about a 1 month of fasting, what happens to your body, and then we'll move on to the 5-2 diet.
In each stage of the 30 days of fasting. Stage 1. During the first couple of days of fasting, both blood sugar level and blood pressure drop. The body starts the cleansing process. And the first few days are the hardest as they are usually accompanied with headaches, dizziness, nausea, and intense hunger. Stage 2. During the second stage, the body becomes accustomed to the fasting schedule and the digestive system is able to rest. The digestive system focuses its energy on cleansing the body and healing the cells as the white blood cells in the body start to become more active. During this stage, the organs start their repair process as well. Stage 3. By the third stage, energy levels will have increased, your mind is able to concentrate better, and an overall feeling of wellness overtakes you. During fasting, the body's healing process becomes a lot more efficient, and so the body repairs any damaged cells during this stage. During this stage, the colon, liver, kidney, lungs, and skin are detoxing by eliminating toxins. Stage 4. During the last 10 days of fasting in Ramadan, the body has become accustomed to the fasting process. Your body becomes more energetic and you experience improved memory and concentration. At this stage, the organs are finishing up their healing process, and once all toxins are removed, the body is able to function at its maximum capacity. These are just some of the physical benefits of fasting that will take place within the body. But the spiritual benefits this month are far greater than anything mentioned.
Okay. And then now we're going to move on to the diet, which is actually getting quite rife within the Western world, which is the 5-2 diet, which is happening during the week as well, not just once a month, which is annual training really for Muslims. But this is something which a lot of non-Muslims are doing during the week. So in August 2012, the BBC broadcasted a Horizon episode called Eat Fast and Live Longer, And the 5-2 diet is currently the most popular intermittent fasting diet. It was popularized by a British doctor and journalist, Michael Mosley. It's called the 5-2 diet because 3 days of the week are normal eating days, while the other 2 restrict calories up to about 600 per day. And this is a video about Dr. Mosley actually talking on the BBC programme about this 5-2 diet.
I mean, I've lost about 19 pounds of fat over a period of about 2.5 months. And I was quite skeptical about it before I began. And then I looked into it, and the science was really impeccable. Not just about weight loss, but about all the other health improvements you get with it. And that's why I wrote a book about it. And that what makes it psychologically attractive is the fact that you're not going to be doing it for the rest of your life, if you like. You're going to do it 2 days a week. And I do it on a Monday and a Thursday, not least because that's what the Prophet Muhammad suggested many years ago. And all great religions have advocated fasting. Well, what's striking about it is there have been a number of clinical trials now done, some here, some in the States, following up hundreds of women, hundreds of men over quite long periods of time. And what they find is that people actually feel more energetic. They feel more enthused. Men in particular find it easier to exercise. While fasting, they burn more fat. That it makes you feel more cheerful. There's actually quite a lot of evidence, which is very, very unexpected. Yeah. But what happens is your brain starts producing this stuff called neurotrophic factor, which is both protective against Alzheimer's and dementia, but it also makes you feel good.
Okay, so that's all about how your stress goes with fasting, which is very, very interesting. But there's something else which actually is really, really interesting, is that fasting helps with cancer. So the latest research, this is somebody called Yoshinori Osumi, who won the 2016 Nobel Prize for Physiology or Medicine for his discoveries of the mechanisms for autophagy. In simple terms, it's the process of starving your body to allow cells recycle their contents. This lets the cell clear out harmful materials, and autophagy is essential for the life and health of the cell. In fact, autophagy can combat diseases like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, cancer, and diabetes. And there's been numerous studies on this. People have done studies on mice, actually, and found that it helps with cancer. So I've got another video here, which I'm going to put on for you to have a look at.
It appears fasting dramatically strengthens our immune system. Researchers at the University of Southern California studied humans and mice who went without food for 2 to 4 days at a time for 6 months. The fasting triggered their bodies to get rid of old, inefficient cells and regenerate new, healthy ones.
Well, it's been known for a long time that one way to extend the lifespan of laboratory animals is simply to reduce their energy intake. Fasting does good things for the brain. There's evidence, not just from animals, but from humans, that fasting is good for the body. It will reduce inflammation. It will reduce oxidative stress in organ systems throughout the body. Fasting is a challenge to your brain. And your brain responds to that challenge of not having food by activating adaptive stress response pathways that help your brain cope with stress and resist disease. Humans live on a quarter of what they eat. On the other 3 quarters live their doctor.
Fasting reduces the enzyme pKa, clearing the way for stem cells to renew, and lowers levels of the IGF-1 growth hormone, which is linked to cancer. One of the study authors compared it to lightening a plane of excess baggage, saying when you starve, the system tries to save energy, and one of the things it can do to save energy is to recycle a lot of the immune cells that are not needed, especially those that may be damaged. So what's good for our spiritual health also appears to be good for our physical health. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Okay, so that's all about fasting. Now we're going to come up to the last third of the talk, and we're going to look at all the bad things that are happening out there in the farming industry. So let's start off with fish. If we look at the fish at the moment, you're better off really getting organic fish, because there is so much mercury out there in the water, which is all going in the fish. Mercury is a neurotoxin that settles into the ocean in large concentrations after we spew it out of industrial smokestacks when burning fossil fuels like coal and oil. It is then taken up by smaller sea life such as plankton, and then it does spread through the food chain to larger fish as well. So we humans then eat the mercury-laced seafood, wild salmon, and we're also breathing it all in the air. This is actually quite common knowledge, really. Farm-raised fish may have somewhat less exposure to mercury than their wild-free cousins, because they're usually fed a controlled diet, often consisting of more grains and soya, a cheaper and more abundant source of calories than fish meal. But they can still absorb mercury, since most fish farms are themselves located in the ocean. Okay, so basically, fish is actually very good for us. There's omega-3 in there as well, which is really good for our brain. But organic is best. And then if we move on to meat, does anybody know which type of meat has the most amount of fat in it? Red meat does, yes. And another one? Okay, so pork has lots and lots of excess fat, building material, and very little muscle material. This gets deposited in vessels and can cause hypertension and heart attacks. Also, on the whole, did you know there's 70 diseases? Roundworm, pinworm, hookworm, tapeworm harbors in the intestine and is very long. Its eggs enter the blood and damage bodily organs. If it enters the brain, it can cause memory loss, heart, it can cause heart attack, eye, it can cause blindness, liver, it can cause liver damage. I've actually got at least 50 diseases here written here, which can happen, especially when pork is not cooked properly. But even if you cook pork at a very high temperature, there is still certain things here. I've got tricura and tricuricis and things like that. And there's more toxins in pork as well. On the whole, they are scavengers as well, so there's a lot more toxins and urea in their muscle. Okay, does anybody know what kinds of meat we eat the most of in this country? Chicken, yes, chicken. And this is a survey that was done very, very recently, and 60% of people said that chicken is the most amount of meat that they eat out of all of them. And did you know that is chicken that is the most abused animal out in the farming industries, which you are going to find out in a minute. So basically there are two types of chicken. There's the chicken that is reared for eggs, and then there is the other type of chicken that is reared for us to eat. And both of them are actually being tampered with. So the first kind of chicken that we can look at first, the type that is reared for eggs, did you know that for egg-laying hens, we need at least 16 hours of sunlight per day for hens to give eggs. And at the moment, we're all eating too many eggs, and the farming industry can't keep up. And does this country have any sunlight apart from at the moment? Hardly any. So what do you think happens? So all the poor hens are put inside closed cages, and they're given artificial sunlight. The artificial sunlight then makes them produce eggs so that we can all keep up and eat them all. So that is what is going on at the moment. Also, hormones are being fed to the hens so that they can lay lots and lots of eggs. So there's lots of estrogen going into those eggs that we are eating, and everybody knows that there's a rise in breast cancer because, and our doctor's nodding her head there, which is good, all that estrogen which is going in the eggs we are eating, and that estrogen then is leading to breast cancer. So it is actually a very, very big problem. The other problem that's happening is with the other types of chickens, which are being fattened up plump very, very quickly, okay? Very, very quickly, so that we can eat them at the rate at which that they need to be produced at a rate so that we can keep up with the people who need to eat them. So chickens are kept indoors. They have their lights switched off for 1 hour each night. The reason is so that they can eat and drink for 23 hours each day under artificial lights to make them grow quicker. So the monster breed that is inbred grows very, very quickly in 4 weeks. Lots and lots of hormones fed to them as well. We know, for example, that antibiotics, they make you put on weight. And antibiotics is given to those hens for 2 reasons. 1, to fatten them up, and 2, to stop them catching disease because they're in close proximity to each other as well. And all that then is going inside the meat. Now, if you look at that hen, it's grown fat within 4 weeks, and you look at the natural process. If you look at children, for example, if you look at children, we don't let them grow up very quickly, do we? Within 4 weeks, they've got to grow, yes? Slowly, slowly, we nurture them, we give them good food, and they grow up quickly according to their own rates naturally. But if you look at what's happening with those chickens, we are actually speeding up their process artificially. They are fed steroids, growth hormones, and drip-fed antibiotics from day 1 to the day they are slaughtered. Recently, growth hormones have been banned, but antibiotics are being used instead and work as a growth promoter, but also work as stopping the disease as well. And this is actually fully researched. I've got a friend who's got a farm, and I've been to her farm, and she's showed me everything. So it is actually real life happening. The farmers may not expose it out there, but it is actually, it is happening. And again, I'm going down to children again. If you look at children, we don't artificially feed them antibiotics. We only give them antibiotics when they're ill, don't we? We don't give it to them to fatten them up, and we don't give them growth hormones at a very young age, not unless something is wrong. So all of this artificial stuff is then having an effect, unfortunately, on our health as well. And then in the case of caged barns, their lights are manipulated. These sheds are computer-controlled, completely computer-controlled factories where everything is automated. The lights, the feed, the water, the temperature. In fact, did you know the only time when they see daylight is when they come out to be slaughtered? So it's very, very sad. And those stress hormones that those chickens release are all then going inside us. Because if you think about it, animals, they get stressed as well. Animals have stress, and all those stress hormones then go into us. And this, obviously, we know mental health is on the rise, but this is just one tiny strand, really, that can lead to mental health. And a lot of those chickens, you don't know what they look like when they come out. You see the meat when all the feathers are off and it's lovely and clean on your plate. But a lot of those hens actually look like that when they come out. They've pecked each other to death, and there's all kinds of diseases going on there as well. And that is actually a website where you can actually see hens, ex-battery hens they're called, which are which is what they look like when they come out, ready to be slaughtered. Also, genetically modified feed is being given to the animals that we are eating. The feed is packed with additives, hormones, steroids, probiotics, which are microorganisms for beneficial qualities. And a lot of that food which the animals are being given to eat are not compatible with their natural metabolism. So this is an example. For example, cats, they don't eat the same food as we do on the whole, do they? They have their own types of food. Yes, does that make sense? Whereas what we're doing here is we're giving the hens artificial food which is not compatible with their natural diet. And that's changing their metabolism and their body system. And then those hens we are eating. Okay? Some of you are really worried, but I will give you some ideas in a minute on how we can bypass all of that. Okay? So all of this stuff is then fed to the animals, genetically modified feed to make pellets, which is abnormal from their usual diet. That's what we have to try and remember. And then following on from that, the eggs are then concentrated with all these impurities which we are then having to eat. And antibiotic resistance, this is again, everybody, all doctors definitely know this. There is a big antibiotic resistance out there. Overuse of antibiotics is causing antibiotics resistance in humans by residues left in meat before human consumption. Yet the poor doctors, they're told not to prescribe above a certain amount of antibiotics. But people, they are really getting antibiotic resistance because of the antibiotics in the meat, and they are constantly ill. They're not getting any better. This poor child has had his antibiotic dose, but he's not getting any better. So then they still have to keep going back to the doctor, and the doctor has to reduce their antibiotics. So there's a big crisis actually in the NHS. It's costing the NHS thousands and thousands of pounds. And doctors, yes, they are actually checked, aren't they, for what kind of prescriptions they give out. My husband's always having a big moan about this. So it's a big catch-2 situation. Use of agricultural antimicrobials as feed additives in food, animal production, is a major cause of increasing antimicrobial resistance in human pathogens. This accounts for the increase in total drug production. So he's ill and he's going to have to keep carrying on taking drugs, and his immunity is going down because of that as well. And then did you know that all of that stuff is then going in the soil as well? Antimicrobial use contaminates air, water and soils near food animal production sites. And there's actually a journal there to prove what is going on there. And by all this going on, do you know all your fresh fruit and vegetables that you're eating, it's all going in there as well. Because all your fresh fruit and veg is being grown in this kind of ground, and where the animals have maybe made manure and stuff, there's antibiotics in there as well. So is it a wonder we're all always ill? Okay, what about the poor bees? Does anybody know what the latest is going on with the bees? Any ideas? Do you know the honey you're eating is actually sugar and water? The farmers cannot keep up with the honey that we're all eating. So there are sugared lakes that are being formed. There's one in Epping, actually. My friend actually took me to it, and I was shocked. It was a whole lake full of sugared water, which the bees drink, and then they make artificial honey. And that is actually a lot of the honey out there in the supermarkets is what you are eating. And it's a real shame, because did you know there are 99 cures of having pure honey? In fact, even nowadays they are in bandages and wounds. You can get very expensive bandages, which cost about £25, and they're impregnated with honey because they have a very, very good antibiotic role. The honey cures skin wounds. It's an antioxidant. It regenerates connective tissues. It's good for skin infection, for ulcers. It's an emollient as well, and it cleanses you. And all of those properties of proper pure honey is actually going. And did you know that the latest thing is people are actually making their own honey? I actually do know quite a few people who live in the countryside, and they're making their own honey because of this reason. Manuka honey is actually an interesting one. People are going back to having original Manuka honey, which has all these kinds of good qualities in it. And then some meat, unfortunately, is being genetically modified. We do know, for example, fruit is being genetically modified. Did you know a nectarine is not a real fruit? A nectarine is a cross, I think, between a peach and an apricot. So there are so many fruits out there which you may have never come across as children, and all of a sudden you see a new fruit and they're crossed. But they're not natural. They're not natural for our body systems. And meat, did you know, is being crossbred as well to make more chunkier meat or more redder meat, more chunkier, more muscle in there. So there you go. She's produced a more muscle animal there. But it's not natural, is it? It's not natural chunk of meat. There are so many things happening with the poor cows. If you think about humans, we produce milk when we've just had a baby, don't we? And then after a while, that milk stops. But poor cows, they are actually being artificially inseminated so that they are in a constant state of lactation, constantly producing milk to keep up with the demand. And what's happening is they are constantly pregnant, and do you know something else which is so interesting? You know there is so much estrogen in the water nowadays. The animals are becoming more feminine and they don't want to mate. The male animals don't want to mate with the female animals. So you know the goats, for example, the male goats, they don't want to mate with the female goats. So the female goats have to be artificially inseminated so that they can have babies. That's what's happening. And the cows, because they are in a constant state of lactation, their udders are being infected. And their udders are constantly being pressed for milk. And did you know that a lot of the milk you have, I know this is going to put you off, has got pus in it and blood cells. But you can research this. It is actually out there. 400 million cells per litre of red and white pus cells are going into your milk every day. There's also hormone tampering going on, artificial insemination to sync up reproduction cycles for better output of eggs and milk and chicks and that kind of stuff. And the farmers, did you know, are able to raise goats, sheep and cows indoors on medicated feed, antibiotics, without ever letting them onto fields, land, and by animals not grazing, we're not fertilizing our land either, hence the need for man to make artificial fertilizers. So the whole life cycle is all broken. And what I'm going to do now is to talk to you a little bit about the different kinds of farming out there, and then you can then decide which one you'd like to go for. Intensively reared or battery farming is where the animal never goes out in cages or concrete, never goes out. They're usually in cages or concrete cubicles and only comes out when ready to be slaughtered. Genetically modified feed, antibiotics. The purpose is to rear the animal quickly so it can be slaughtered within 4 weeks. And then if we look at free range is animals spend equal time inside and out. Everything else is the same as intensively reared. So everything else is the same as the top one. Basically, the only thing different with free range is that the animals spend equal time inside as they do outside. So we're referring more to eggs here, really, or hens. This one's a little bit better. The poultry is slaughtered at 8 weeks. And then if we look at organic is really the best, okay? Organic means there is organic certified feed, organic certified land, organic certification at point of slaughter, and the slaughter doesn't take place until 70 days, so the process is not being rushed. Now, have you ever wondered that organic organic is actually a lot more expensive, isn't it? But it's expensive for a reason, isn't it? With everything else, it's done very, very quickly and in masses, whereas organic is done more slowly. So if you do want to eat meat, then organic is really the best way. And that my journal proves that red meat is actually eaten for more than 3 times a week, which is not good for us. Red meat, somebody already highlighted, has more fat in it. But the other connection with red meat is that there is a big cancer link with red meat. Red and processed meat can cause cancers, cardiovascular disease, and diabetes. This is due to excessive fat, iron nitrates, which react with DNA. Non-human salicylic acid promotes tumor progression, and infectious agents from bacteria, smoking, grilling, etc. So all of this stuff is all proven, and doctors know as well, one of the first things when someone has cancer is cut down on your red meat. But that doesn't mean you stop meat completely. All I'm trying to tell you is to have a balanced meal, because if you look at our natural human food chain, it is a little bit of everything. But at the moment, did you know that the majority of England are eating too much meat and less fresh fruit and veg? Although since healthy eating has come out, it's got much, much better, I must say. Much better. Healthy eating didn't exist when I was a child. That will show you how old I am. But it definitely didn't. We could eat what we wanted and it was fine. But having said that, there was I don't remember going to the supermarket and getting processed food. It was all home-cooked food, wasn't it? So I remember going to the supermarket and buying just ingredients like milk and butter and flour and cheese, but I don't remember any of the ready-made meals. You know, just think about your childhood, if you're my age or older, that is, because I know there's some youngsters in the audience as well. But that's the way it was. Okay, right, we're going to finish off now with questions. I hope I haven't scared you all, but that is reality, I'm afraid, and my talk was on food and stress, and there's a lot of stress and mental health because of the food out there. Okay, any questions, anybody, before we finish off? Yes? Pardon? Yes. Yes, so go for organic again. Organic will have less, although it wouldn't completely be rid of it all, but again, organic milk is better. And it does make sense when you think about it, because the amount of milk we're all drinking, cows can't give us all that milk. Cows only give milk when they have babies, like we do. So that something has to be done for them to produce milk all the time, 24 hours, really. Raw milk is actually the latest, isn't it?
But I mean, you could have soy. I mean, soy milk has its own problem.
Yes.
I think it's supposed to be the healthy.
Yeah, raw milk is something really interesting. All of a sudden, everyone's into raw milk, and that's unpasteurized, which is just fresh, isn't it? It's fresh out of the cow, basically. So I think on the whole, from today's talk, we can take away that all artificial stuff is bad. We need to stick with all the natural stuff, really. All natural stuff. Either that or we all need to go out and become farmers now. And did you know there's a shortage of farmers in England? Everybody goes towards all the academic type of things, you know, and nobody's becoming farmers, and a lot of our stuff is imported as well. We don't know what's in the importation. Importation is all about money, we know that. And if you look at some of the quality control and stuff in some of the developing countries, it's not going to be as good as the quality control in this country, so you don't really know what you're eating, really. Importation stuff as well. Okay, any more questions? No? One more?
Yeah, I've got a question
Yes.
on the fasting.
Yes.
So with Ramadan and things like that, do you not eat at night time?
We do. So it's only during daylight hours that we don't eat.
Yeah, so
Yes.
if in that video it was saying about continuing the fasting for prolonged periods of time to see the health benefits, but if you're constantly interrupting that, you get the health benefits.
So with Ramadan, that's like one month in weekly during the week. But I'm not sure about the interruption, because then we would all die then, wouldn't we? So we do need to break the fast as well, and obviously we need the energy and stuff, wouldn't
I
we?
think you could easily go a month.
Could you? No, I thought it was 3 days was the amount. Really? Oh, did you?
Just drinking water, not
Yeah, water, I suppose, but you do need food to break that cycle as well. I mean, if you look at the way Jesus did it, he did a 24-hour fast for 40 days. And Moses did a 24-hour fast for 40 days. That's the previous nations, the way they did it. And then when Islam came, it was updated to just daylight hours, approximately 12 hours. So we eat healthily. We still try and eat healthily when we break our fast, but during the day we don't eat or drink.
The thing about the 40 days in the Bible is it just means a long time. It doesn't necessarily mean 40 days.
Yes. And in those days, I don't think calendars were around either to measure. But it was a long time, yes. But 24 hours means, what we believe anyway, 24 hours means they broke their fast in the evening to evening. So evening they'd have a meal, because this is the way the Jews, for example, do their fast, 24-hour fast. They would break their fast in the evening and they would eat, and then they would carry on fasting until the following evening. It doesn't mean you go for 40 days without anything. It means at one stage you would have to break your fast, but obviously with healthy food. Some people put weight on in Ramadan. I always used to put weight on in Ramadan because we were eating loads more. This year is the first year, since I've done this talk, I feel really guilty if I start, scoffing down samosas and things. So now I've sort of cut down and I am eating healthy, and I've actually maintained my weight this Ramadan so far anyway.
But if you are sensible, the Ramadan is a bit like two of the 5-2 diet, isn't it?
It is.
So that you probably have about 500 or 600 calories in the evening.
Yes, we do. Yes. So it's basically, it's the same.
Ipswich, that means advocating 600 is probably not very sustainable long term, so you think 800.
It's also what you can take as well, isn't it? Everybody knows their own body the best, don't they? So, But I think fasting on the whole is better than dieting on the whole. But I did mention if you do want to diet, you do need to go and see your GP to see what the best program is for you, because they check your weight, don't they, to see if it's okay. Because some people think they need to go on a diet when they don't, and they're fine weight-wise, I think with nowadays trends, everybody thinks they're fat. With the way the models and everything's going on, everyone thinks they're fat. Everybody wants to be super thin, skinny, whereas, we don't need to be, do we? Everybody has their own body shape, and sometimes it's genetic as well, like I mentioned. I did a lot of genetics in my degree, so I keep bringing up genetics as well. Okay, I think that's about it then. Yes, so you've been a wonderful audience, so thank you for coming. And do you like my animated pictures? Do help yourself. We've got this room till 3, so if you want to network or you can see fruit and vegetables, fruit and
Well, the problem with soy milk is they're knocking down the top of the rainforest to grow the soya. The other thing is soy has lots of natural estrogen in it, so that may not be freezing up. My son, who knows much more about this than I do, just my father, both environmentally
Did you enjoy that? Did your daughter enjoy that?
Yeah, she really likes it because she
That's
does biology, so she likes all this.
What did she do?
She's doing biology.
Oh, okay. So this was all linked with her, really, with her.
Yeah,
degree.
really relevant.
Do you work within the university?
Yeah, I'm in RT.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I would stay, but I've got a meeting at 2 back at Eastwood.
Yeah. It was nice. Thank
Yeah,
you for
thanks very
coming.
much. Thank you.
Did you enjoy that? So we're going to have to not eat tonight now. Yes, I can't wait actually. I'm quite excited about tonight. For the iftar, it's going to be good.
Thank you very much.
That's
Really
okay.
enjoyed
Thank
that.
you for
Thank
coming. I don't know how to sign out of here. Sign out of here.
More systematic ways as well. Last time, a little bit like crowded something.
Yes. Oh, was that okay?
Yeah, it was lovely.
Was it
Really
okay?
good.
I just hope I haven't
Excellent.
scared anyone.
No.
Just go for organic. You can't go wrong really. Yeah.
Could you send me the slides?
Yes, I will do. I've already got it on my email and I'll forward it to you. And then you send it to whoever wants it. But also it will be on lecture capture. I don't know if people want to see it through lecture capture where it gets filmed.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I can send you it that way as well.
As well, yeah,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All
Thanks
right,
for
then.
coming. Okay, bye. Yeah, I was going to say, we can't really eat much then, can we?
No, I know everybody
Because even
says
the fruit
that.
and veggies,
Yeah, but organic. If you stick to organic, then you can't go
you're
wrong.
safe.
Yeah.
Safer.
Yeah, you're safe then. Yes.
Okay. So is it possible to get the slides? Because I saw your message, in the WhatsApp group.
Which WhatsApp group?
The,
Yeah, if you tell me the WhatsApp group, I'll write it on there. I'll send the video on there.
the ones that we got, Rizwana and all of them. Rizwana and...
Oh, Iman. Was it Iman? E-M-A-N?
Yeah, that's
Okay, I will send the video on there actually. The video will go on there
Got that.
eventually.
Okay.
What's your name?
Madhu.
Madhu. Yes, I've seen your name on there.
Yeah, that's it.
All
So I
right
saw
then.
the message and I thought, I'll pop in. It's an interesting subject.
Oh, that's really good. I'm glad you came, definitely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Was it okay? You sure?
It's fantastic. I work at the Legal Center with mental health. I work as a staff nurse there.
Oh, yes.
Is it possible to send me some of the details on my, that's my
Yeah.
name there?
How did you get this?
I went on the internet.
Okay.
From the internet I got this.
Oh, from the internet, but you didn't get it through Essex Mind and Spirit.
Can't remember now.
Okay, I'll tell you what, if you give me your email address.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Okay.
Let's write it down.
It's very informative.
Thank
by the way.
you.
Yeah. Right. Suchan and Bilu.
Oh, yes, I know you. You're actually on Essex Mind and Spirit.
Right.
So
right.
I will email you through
Yeah.
Essex Mind and Spirit.
Okay, all right. You got
Yes.
the details.
Yeah, once it goes on YouTube, then I
Yeah.
will email you.
Okay, right.
Okay.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Okay.
I did overrun a bit. Did I overrun? Yes, I did overrun a bit.